Nothing is real. The Beatles were underrated, and other sweeping statements about pop by David Hepworth. Read by David Hepworth. Introduction. We called him Uncle Stan. He wasn't really our uncle, but that's what we called him. He would come and visit us at Christmas. Uncle Stan came from the other side of the Pennines, wore a cardigan with suede facings, worked as a salesman, and was, by the standards of our house anyway, smooth. He smoked filter-tipped cigarettes, had his own smart hi-fi at home, and believed that Frank Sinatra had said all there was to be said in popular music. Uncle Stan singled me out because he liked to tease me about my gauche enthusiasm for music. At Christmas 1963, he visited as usual and said to me, as usual, "What record have you got for Christmas this year?" I proudly showed him my treasured copy of With the Beatles, which had come out a few weeks earlier. This was the Christmas of Beatlemania. To the adults of the day, Beatlemania seemed no more likely to be remembered in the future than the Christmas of the Mutant Ninja Turtles would seem to me when I had my own children to tease. Uncle Stan couldn't resist what seemed like an open goal. "Let me tell you something," he said, reaching into the pocket of his Dean Martin cardigan for his Ronson lighter. "When I come next year and I ask you the same question, you'll have forgotten all about the Beatles." Of course, Uncle Stan came the following year, and of course when I met him I was brandishing my new copy of Beatles for Sale. He returned in 1965 and I was able to greet him with Rubber Soul. At Christmas 1966 I brightly proffered my copy of Revolver. By 1967 the poor man had given in and ruefully conceded that if only he had chosen to illustrate his point about the ephemeral nature of pop music with the example of the Dave Clark Five or Jerry and the Pacemakers, he might have hit the bullseye. Instead, through sheer ill luck, he had landed on the act who were to the era of pop what Frank Sinatra had been to the era of the big bands, the exception that proves the rule. At the time, even the idea of a career writing about pop music was a distant fantasy I didn't dare entertain. When it came to pass, in the mid-70s, when I was fulfilling my slightly less distant dream, that of working in a record shop, it was mainly exciting because it gave me access to the odd free album, which was the way I interpreted all questions of worldly wealth at the time. When that led eventually to a full-time job containing the word editor, I still didn't think it could last, any more than Ringo thought that his moment in the spotlight would last. That was in 1979. I've spent the almost 40 years since then writing about, editing magazines about, broadcasting about, and pontificating about pop music. Some of those pieces are here. In some cases I've rewritten or added to them. Some were composed off the top of my head, as the best blog entries invariably are, while others were arrived at after prolonged chin-stroking, as befits essays to be broadcast by the most august wing of the BBC. Quite a few of them touch upon the group that caused Uncle Stan such embarrassment back in the mid-60s. Since then, the Beatles have been the fixed point of my musical universe. I was one of the generation shaped by them. It wasn't just their music, it was the way they did everything. I can remember the thrill of first seeing them on TV. I can remember the pride I felt when they stormed the citadels of the adult world, the London Palladium, Buckingham Palace, even the United States of America. I can remember the inevitability of their breakup. I can remember long periods in the 70s when nobody thought about them much. Then I remember the second Beatlemania that followed the death
Sample complete. Ready to continue?